Hey there. Come on in, grab a seat. I've been navigating the wild world of the music business for a long time, and today I'm putting on my mentor hat. In today's Explainer, we are going to do a deep dive, a masterclass really, on the economics of independent physical CD releases. Look, it is absolutely awesome that you've written and recorded your music. That's the art. But getting it into the hands of your fans without completely bankrupting yourself, well, that's the business. Let's get into it.
So I gotta ask you a direct question. Are you actually ready to press your first CD? I know, it's incredibly exciting to think about holding your own music in your hands. But before you just jump headfirst into production and send off your master tracks, we absolutely have to calculate the hard costs, those sneaky setup fees, and your real profit margins. I've seen way too many brilliant young artists lose their shirts simply because they didn't understand the math behind the music.
To really get why this matters, we have to look back a bit. Think about this staggering number, $500 million. Insane, right? Back in the late 1990s, the music industry was just printing money, but there was a massive price-fixing scandal. Major record labels were actually caught inflating the retail prices of CDs. They were so terrified of discount stores creating price wars that they basically conspired to overcharge fans by up to $5 an album. They raked in nearly $500 million in excess cash before the FTC finally stepped in. This little history lesson really highlights the power of the independent path. When you stay indie, you bypass those monopolies entirely and set your own fair pricing.
All right, so here's our game plan for today's Explainer. We'll quickly touch on that industry greed warning, dive into the economies of CD production, compare jewel cases versus paper sleeves, figure out how to calculate your break-even point, and wrap up with payment terms and logistics. Starting right off with Section 1, the industry greed warning. Learning from the major label monopolies.
Moving right along to Section 2, the economies of CD production and exactly how your order volume dictates your unit cost.
You see, turning your digital files into a pressed physical disc comes with some very real setup fees. Things like glass mastering, which is basically just making the physical stamper from your audio, and silkscreen prep. They happen before a single CD is ever pressed, and this literally changes your entire bottom line. If you play it super cautious with a short run of just 100 CDs, it's going to cost you a painful $8.37 per unit. But if you commit to a 1,000-unit run, those upfront costs get spread out, and suddenly your unit cost drops down to just $1.60. Essentially, the more you press, the cheaper each one gets. Okay, but here's the fine print that almost always catches new artists off guard. Don't let the setup fees scare you, but you must always budget for an overrun. Manufacturing just isn't a perfect science. Pressing plants typically have a policy where they allow for a 5 to 10% overrun or underrun. So, if they happen to press a few extra perfect copies while they're dialing in the machines, they are going to ship them to you, and yep, they will add that to your final bill. Always have a little buffer in your budget for it.
Next up, Section 3, jewel cases versus paper sleeves. Choosing the right home for your music.
Your packaging choice is an absolutely crucial decision. Think about the historic standard, the jewel box. Designed way back in the early 80s, it started as this 100-gram marvel of rigid plastic that perfectly showcased the disc. It got the name jewel case because the early samples were just practically flawless. But, of course, manufacturers cheapened the plastic over time to save a buck, reducing it to about 68 grams, which is exactly why those little hinges break if you just look at them wrong today. Then you've got the modern alternative, the paperboard CD sleeve. It's lightweight, super versatile, way more eco-friendly, and it gives you some fantastic visual real estate for your album art. So how does this affect your wallet? There's actually a secret hidden right here in the math. You'd probably assume paper is always cheaper than plastic, right? Well, actually no. At the 500-unit mark, a paperboard sleeve is going to cost you more, $2.99, compared to the jewel case's $2.63. Why? Because the custom die cutting and folding of that paper requires a higher initial setup cost than just snapping generic plastic pieces together. But if you bump that order up to 2,500 units, the math totally flips. Once you hit high volume, the paperboard becomes significantly cheaper, dropping way down to just 76 cents a unit.
All right, on to Section 4, calculating your break-even point, ensuring your physical release is profitable.
Honestly, this right here is probably the most crucial lesson I can give you as a mentor. There's this great quote from a classic Usenet forum by a guy named Andrew Plotkin, and it completely demystifies the whole risk factor. It goes, selling them for $15, one needs to sell 66 to break even.
Just think about that. If you make an initial investment of roughly $1,000 to press a small run of 250 CDs and you retail them to your fans for $15 at your merch table, you literally only need to sell 66 of them to get your $1,000 back. Just 66 CDs to cover the base manufacturing cost.
So it's really all about visualizing your profit. Let's look at that run of 250 CDs. We know 66 covers the raw cost, but let's play it safe and factor in shipping and some incidentals. Let's say your true break-even point hits at around 75 units sold. That means every single one of the remaining 175 discs you sell goes straight into your pocket. That is pure profit margin for you, the creator. And that is exactly how you fund your next tour, your next studio session, and ultimately, your career.
Let's bring it home with Section 5, Payment Terms and Logistics, navigating the final steps of production.
You really have to understand that pressing plants operate with super strict, non-negotiable payment terms. See, unlike returning a pair of shoes, custom manufactured media cannot be restocked or resold if you default on payment. A CD with your face and your music on it is completely useless to anybody else. So you have to be ready to put down a 50% prepayment for any substantial order up front. And for the rest, you need that cash ready on delivery to pay the balance, plus whatever that overrun percentage ends up being.
And finally, whatever you do, please don't let logistics eat your profit. The differences in shipping weight are just massive. If you order 1,000 CDs packed in those traditional heavy plastic jewel cases, you are paying to freight over 300 pounds of material across the country. But if you order those exact same 1,000 CDs in bulk with no packaging, or you opt for lightweight paper sleeves, the weight plummets to just about 46 pounds. Going with heavy plastic doesn't just cost more to manufacture, it directly eats into your final profit margin through crazy shipping costs.
So we've walked through the history, the math, the packaging, and the shipping logistics. You now have the exact blueprint to make sure your next release isn't some financial black hole, but a genuinely profitable venture. I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. Are you going to use this knowledge to control your own physical destiny? The tools are right here for you to build a totally sustainable, independent music career. So get out there, run those numbers, and press some amazing music.